Round four of Thursday Nighter. We have special guest announcer here. New Bears playing in tournament, so we have president of the Chess Castle, Dane Zagar. Welcome, Dane.
All right, great to be here. Yeah, so actually was playing in this tournament up until last week and then was traveling this week, so it worked out perfectly to be able to broadcast here with Chris. So actually played and lost to Nate Hoover last week. And so I think he's undefeated, and I think Connor has 2.5 out of three, correct?
Yes, I believe that is the standing. So Connors must win here,
Okay.
and
All
Nathan
right.
Nathan can draw, and I believe at least gets shared first that way.
Right, interesting. And so yeah, in that maybe like I'm not sure what Nate's normal opening is against the Nimzo, but maybe he's thinking, I can play knight f3 and just play really solid and get a draw here. So, just avoiding the Nimzo. So bishop d2. This is all pretty normal stuff. Okay. Oh, and interesting.
Yeah,
So
this is just gonna transpose the closed Catalan.
yeah. Yeah, this is yeah, definitely
Yep.
okay, not my forte, but definitely interesting stuff. Okay, so D5, right.
So I know
And
I've actually studied this with Connor a bit, so I know he's definitely not getting surprised here.
right. This line I've actually played myself quite a bit with bishop b4 check just to, have this bishop on d2 is somewhat misplaced. And a lot of times you'll play a Dutch structure with playing knight d4 and f5. And that'll prevent White's idea. Usually, White wants to get e4 in, sooner than later. So, f5 can really slow that down. Um, and let's see here. So let's see how it goes. So queen c2, knight d7, castles.
One interesting thing with that bishop before check Catalan line is I feel like a lot of Catalan white players they dislike it so much that sometimes they'll even play neo Catalan, so they'll play they'll omit they play one c4 and that it doesn't allow the or they'll play other variations that just don't allow bishop before check because they want you to play bishop e7. They want to get in their knight d2 e4 plan. And so there's always it's kind of one of those interesting things where there's a lot of little move order battles between the Catalan player and the player trying to get bishop before check in.
Right, right. So yeah, and if they one interesting thing too is maybe if they don't play D4 right away, maybe if you have E6, maybe you don't play D5 right away and you try and like feed and cut out the bishop to kind of fight against that. And there's lots of like you said, there's lots of different move orders. One really interesting thing here though is let's see if it happens. So after castles, okay, rook D1 is fairly normal, but yeah, the knight jumps in. And one interesting point is if white plays, no, he doesn't. Okay. If white plays like a knight to D2, sometimes black, if if F5 isn't played right away, so after bishop F4, um sometimes black will wait for white to try and play this knight D2. And I've even heard of like I think it's like a waiting move sometimes like A5 and then like knight D2. And the idea is to hit this bishop with G5. And it's pretty exciting chess. So the bishop's not going to go here because it's getting trapped. So you go back. And white would prefer to play knight d2 over knight to d3 because sometimes this pawn can be captured. So, white's kind of trying to have his cake and eat it too. But again, this annoying, this dark square bishop. Let's see, how do we get back here? Oh, so a5. Yeah. So yeah, the idea is, we're going to trap this bishop potentially, and so white will sometimes be forced to take here and so forth, and then black gets like pretty decent game. So interesting stuff, but that did not happen. So
And
f5.
just playing 94 in the first place is already pretty ambitious by black. I
Right.
think I play like b6 in the same position. You can kind of just keep developing your pieces. But that is definitely master quality move that you're like showing, hey, I want to play for when is black, which, that's hard to do, but that's what he actually needs to do. So it makes sense for this game.
Right. And yeah, sometimes yeah, B6 is always interesting. And then sometimes you have to watch out for like the queen coming in. Usually that doesn't really work though. So yeah, like you said, that's perfectly valid. Okay, so knight to e5 trade. So yeah, kind of nothing special going on.
Well,
Bishop
that bishop is
f6.
looking pretty good, but so I guess it makes sense why he wants to trade that off.
Right. I think it's important though. A lot of the times you want to wait for, so white's going to play this f3 move, right? And so this diagonal gets weakened. And so if white actually trades this bishop off, I think that's kind of a good thing for him because usually like d4 is kind of weak. And so, black can hit him with c5 and so forth. And if this diagonal opens up, you would be surprised how many times, like, with a knight here, some kind of devastating check can happen. So it can still happen with the queen as well, but it's just interesting. All right. So,
Yeah, that's that bishop on e5, even though it looks so amazing. You got to make sure it actually has some threats on the squares it's looking at before you just decide. Trading it off is like maybe blitz move versus maybe anticipating the long diagonal up into the
right.
king is classical style.
Yeah, and I think that I think white is a lot of times more desperate with this bishop. So I really like trying to, see basically if we can, keep that on the board a little bit longer, but looks like that's not for long for this world. Yeah. So the trade happens and yeah, black should be perfectly fine, but so is white. And if white gets e4, looks like it's happening soon. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this looks decent also. I was thinking, maybe just B3, and then just like knight C3 and E4, because I don't think white's probably not in any hurry here.
Yeah.
But okay, so
Well,
kind
also,
of
but he's got his queen on the c file too, and you know now you're kind of giving up that option to potentially play cd5 if your queen could enter.
right. Yeah, interesting. So now, all right, so Connor's kind of committing here with this knight. So I guess
Well, 93
I
looks
mean
like a threat.
obviously he has this, but I'm just thinking, is it really great? Do you want your knight here? Because it's obviously going to get kicked away with B3 at some point.
Yeah,
So if this threat's stopped, this placement might not be so great in the long run.
I kind of like queen c1 just from the perspective of it's far from the knight and kind of controlling it well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just also, yeah, there's no black coming in with the diagonal, anything like that. Yeah, that seems perfectly good. Yeah, Queen C1.
Yeah, followed by b3, and,
So
and then you can also imagine you can develop. Well, I mean, you probably want to kick the knight first anyways, but you're kind of overprotecting a3 for when you eventually play b3. That there's definitely no knight a3 ideas, but it's kind of
yep.
contrived anyways because if you played knight d2 to make that an issue, they can play knight takes knight in the first place. But so then you're
Right. Yeah, exactly.
so it's
So
kind of silly, but I don't know, something to think about, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, definitely. Maybe what Black is trying to do, one idea is he might be attempting to push this pawn at some point. So maybe Queen C1, maybe he pushes F4. And so yeah, I guess we could just, play these moves here. And then the idea could be, the knight's landing here if we have like a trade of queens or something. And maybe E4 isn't really so meaningful in a queenless endgame. And but I don't see how black is getting a real big advantage out of this either, though. So yeah, just interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, I mean, is it? Are you able to still after that all goes down? Are you able to I'm just wondering if we can trade queens, play rook d3 maybe. No, b2's handled.
Yeah,
B2's
yeah.
handled,
There's this.
unfortunately.
There's this.
Can't
Um,
handle everything. So it's just like, yeah, it's coming. F5, F4 is coming a little too fast. Seems like. I mean, it doesn't
right,
seem
but
terrible, but
yeah, like
which
I
risk?
was thinking. Well, okay, so like a lot of the times, if my opponent's threatening something, I'll ask myself, is it really that bad? And so, sometimes I'll just say, okay, all right, you can have it, enjoy. And honestly, is that bishop that great? Probably not.
Oh yeah.
And this is probably like an equal end game. Would be, I guess. I guess we could, always check the engine analysis here, but
But
um, yeah,
look,
let's see.
Black's development's not looking anything special. They've still got some problems to solve themselves. So
Okay, yeah, pretty much an equal end game, and yeah, they're gonna have to play e5 just to get this bishop out. Interesting.
like a closed Catalan and resulting in an equal endgame, I'm shocked.
All right, let's see though. That would have all, yeah, been quite interesting. So, let's see. Knight c4 was played. Queen c1, just kind of preventing all of that.
Ah,
And
nice.
okay, this was the idea.
Wow. So
Unless,
they agreed
oh,
with our
wait a second.
analysis a little bit.
Unless
Or this could be still, yeah. Just
this
click,
is still their
yeah,
thinking, right?
click. Well, click to another game and click back to the game, and then you can be sure that
Oh, okay.
it's not your analysis. Yeah, and
Okay.
now back it up to wherever we were.
Yep. 96. Yeah, we'll go to, yeah, right here. Okay. So this was played. Queen C1 was played. And okay, so they did get into the end game. And okay, so this was all played. Interesting.
Wow. So we're on the same wavelength as the players.
Except for they don't take the bishop, which, huh.
Ah, yeah. Connor's okay because it makes sense. He needs a win.
Yeah, he's just going after the pawn because yeah, I think if you take the bishop, like we said, it's not that great. It's
Yeah.
just equal. But here maybe you can win the pawn, but you've got to be extremely careful because if you take with the knight, there could be this fork at any point, and if you take with the rook, maybe white could have some development where they play knight c3 and they're able to play like rook d1 and e4 and maybe white will have some edge of development, but we'll have to see. This is really interesting. So okay, so then e4 is just played immediately. Yeah, seems pretty reasonable.
Look at this time
Okay, he's
situation.
just letting this go, huh?
Look at Connor's time management here, though. This doesn't exactly seem ideal.
Oh yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, I think, it's fair. I don't think we have to go into the tank completely. Like I've had some games where I feel like I spent too much time, but probably like spend a good 30, 40 minutes. I say especially like it's really important not to get into this mode of I'm gonna play kind of, robotically, just, get through the opening or something. So the first 10 moves or so, if you can kind of spend at least 15, 20 minutes and kind of, um, I don't know, I feel like get the brain juices going, just look into the position. And even if it's a position you've played before, just you feel a little more absorbed into the game where you're willing to stop if some critical thing happens. So yeah, but so far he's not playing poorly or anything though, and
Yeah,
he's got this idea. So I mean, hey, maybe you can't argue with results.
exactly. And Nathan down to 10 minutes, so it's also putting the pressure on Nathan's clock. He can't think on Connor's time when he's not using his time.
Right, exactly. And so obviously this rook, if it's recaptured, is just walking into a fork, and black is going to be up a piece. So yeah, maybe knight c3 isn't ideal, but let's see, what do we do here? What is correct? So maybe I was thinking maybe king f2, is that reasonable here? But then we're walking into a pin, and I thought, okay, we can step out of the pin and hit the rook. king
Well,
g3.
aren't you also at least dropping a pawn to knight takes bishop, king takes, pawn takes, rook takes,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
and then
Yeah,
the
we can't really
d4
do that.
d4 is still backwards and loose.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
not like it's auto win, but come on, I wouldn't want to play that against Connor.
No, I don't think I'd want to play that against anybody. Fair enough. Um, yeah, this is also like rook f2 isn't quite working. So if we play like rook f2, um, problem is like this pawn is going to get captured. So, at any point, just knight takes and whichever, capture happens, we're just losing a pawn here. So that's not good either. So maybe knight c3 is just like, well, if I'm going to lose a pawn, I'm going to develop. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. What about rook d3? Rook d3, same problem. Okay. So yeah, so that's interesting stuff. So this whole thing all the way back here, it was kind of hard to tell whether or not this move is going to pan out.
it's like
And so
it reminds me of like an Alekhine.
yeah,
Like that knight b6 is just such a bad piece, but if they can make knight c4 stuff work, it's just like oh their life is good. And you can make knight c4 like never happen. It's like oh they're like this knight on what is this knight on b6? Please
yeah,
give me relief.
yeah, really, really interesting. So yeah, maybe I guess White's pawns are a little bit exposed here. So okay. So knight c3, and now we're into this. And rook c1 seems reasonable. So at least Nate is getting some good development.
Yeah,
Maybe maybe even a reasonable idea might be we don't necessarily want to take this pawn because we'll open the bishop and so forth. So, if he can somehow maybe even play like e5 and just kind of like freeze the pawns where they are, maybe he can get some queenside play going with like a b4, a4, b5, like that kind of thing. But definitely just down a pawn here. So interesting.
and
All
it's also
right.
interesting to think about those pawns, even though they White's got nice development and nice central space, but those pawns are pushed up the board, and the back of the pawn chains are weak to potential attacks by Black's pieces as he gets them out. So he's got, it's just double edged a little bit in an endgame to
Right.
have, yeah, because they're not necessarily huge weaknesses yet, but potentially you can attack d4, you can attack e4. They're part of tactics versus it's a little harder, I think, to get at b7 and e6.
Right. It's really tough. I mean, it is just definitely a pawn. Like I don't actually see any clear plan for white here. I mean, besides, even if you do this, like you said, it's really hard to get at these pawns. So yeah, I'm not seeing too much. But um and you can see the time usage also here. Like Nate's playing 2 games, so that's always tough as well. I feel like it's always a good sign if I'm playing Nate and he's having to like walk across the room and play someone else. Like, okay, maybe I'll collect some rating points here because just not easy thing to do. Um, okay, so maybe we'll come back to this one. Should we check out Donahue and Eddie Wasserman?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so this started out E4 on F5.
Yep.
Yeah,
This
Robert.
is Robert's specialty, Latvian Gambit, but the evaluation of this position is plus 1.5, so it's objectively losing. Uh, and Robert actually lost a game to 1400 playing Latvian Gambit, so it's not exactly the best choice, but at the same time, he's just saying, you know what, I'm going to improve on it. I'm going to come back, and I'm also kind of in, I like my mainline openings, so I'm extra kind of anti openings like Latvian, but if it works, it works. So let's see what happens in this game.
Right. And I feel like Eddie's the kind of player that will, fight and never want to draw. So maybe he can kind of trick him into like, I've got to punish this opening and, you know, take more than that, 1
Yeah,
point. So who
I feel
knows,
like
maybe he'll overpress.
Eddie's the wrong guy to do this against too because Eddie's booked up everywhere. Like
Yeah.
he plays a lot of chess. So Eddie's played 3,200 over the board chess games. Each each taking full thinks, and you remember those when you play over the board. So there's no chance he hasn't played Latvian Gambit in the past, and this is going to shock him.
No,
He knows what's
he's
going
seen
on.
it. Yeah. Yeah, but maybe it'll make him spend time, and
Yeah,
anything you do makes Eddie spend a lot of time. We can already see like the time situation for the game. If let's see, so Eddie has like 11 minutes left, it looks like. So let's see, let's get to
yeah.
that.
The games have been going on for a couple hours. They start at 6:30, so gives us lots of content to start to work with, but yeah, lots to catch up on too.
Right. Yeah, and Eddie's just kind of common sense, just develop your pieces towards the middle of the board. I have an extra pawn. Um, yeah, however, though, if Black can castle and put enough pressure along this F file, that's definitely something, that you have to watch out for. Knight C6. Okay. Yeah, I guess reasonable enough. C3. And he's not really, wanting to take the bait by, pushing. I mean, obviously can't do it here, but at some point, if you ever do play C4 and you try and like over push, Black's pieces can jump in. So, something to watch out for. So C3, castles, Knight D2, yeah, just reasonable. Hmm. Just avoiding, maybe he's just avoiding some, potential tactics here. So Queen C2.
I'm not seeing what's wrong with Castle. Just get on with it.
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering, is Eddie gonna, maybe he's gonna do it. Maybe he's castling queenside and it
Ah,
looks, I think that's what's happening. Okay. Okay. And so we're gonna have an
okay.
exciting battle.
I feel like that's totally unnecessary. I mean, you're up a clean pawn.
Yeah.
Like just you want to just convert your pawn. Don't turn it into double, opposite sides attacking, which is basically pawns don't matter anymore. It's just let's get at each other's kings.
Right. And by castling queenside here, White already kind of has a hook into his position. So, basically we just kind of picture anything like a hook is where, normally you have like pawns that are just uniform along the seventh or second rank. So anytime you move a pawn up, this could be a hook because if black gets a pawn here, they're going to be able to capture and open a file. Um, and so yeah, it feels really unnecessary and risky. I agree with Chris about this one. All right, so yeah, so not wasting any time. Robert's like already just
It's like,
A5.
here we go.
Yep.
Start your engines.
I do think though, maybe I'm not sure if A5 is correct because I wonder, can we play to try and slow him down a little? Can this be played? I mean, obviously, okay, we might have to worry about bishop to B5, but it seems like, queen B3. Yeah, I guess maybe you just sack this pawn is the idea. And yeah, just open up files because if you yeah, this could get really, really ugly really, really quick. Maybe even sack another pawn. Like I would see, that could be a very Robert-like position, right? You just open everything up and you have all your pieces play. So really
Yeah,
interesting stuff.
I used to play a lot of center game where I'd castle queen side every game, and it's objectively lost. I mean, it's objectively bad but a lot of people would just shove b5, let you take it, and play rook b8,
Right.
and the engine says it's plus 1.5 or something, but it's not fun to play against.
Right. Yeah, it's like some of my, I guess, most brutal losses are to the King's Indian, as white a D4 player, play the Queen's Gambit. And yeah, it's like, okay, you're better, you're playing the King's Indian, and then you just, basically your attack's not fast enough and you just get crushed and it's demoralizing. Even though it's like, okay, King's Indian at GM level isn't really a thing as much anymore. But, for players like us that, yeah, aren't immortal, it could be very, very good. So, okay, so yeah, Eddie's not wasting any time though, plays H3 and King B1, pretty reasonable. And okay. Yeah, so Robert's also just getting all the pieces onto the queen side here.
So
Hmm.
it seems like king b1 is almost always a necessary move once you castle queenside. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so in general, when you castle queenside, you're not really as secure because when you castle kingside, your king automatically will guard all of these pawns here. So a lot of times A2 is kind of weak, and then another reason is like usually your king is open to some kind of diagonal checks. So in general, it's just a good move to play. And the other thing is when you castle queenside, either your queen is on C2 like it is here, and you have like potentially king and rook, or king and queen lined up for a rook, or your queen's on D2 and you're lined up for some kind of bishop. So it just always, yeah, seems to be a good idea. Even if we don't know why, it's like you just gotta play it.
Yeah,
So king B1.
if they get that battery lined up too, a lot of times you want to get rook c1 in just to defend. And
Right.
you can't play king b1 and rook c1 in the same move, so you gotta get it in sometime earlier. And
King A1
yeah,
though
that's
is
a bit odd. Yeah, I don't
different. Yeah,
why.
I'm not sure.
I mean, if he's got the b file open or something, maybe, but I feel like it's not playing the
Yeah.
spirit of the position. White's got to
It's
White's
a
got to
race, right?
get their stuff going, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a race. So okay, so yeah, King B1, King A1, A4. Yeah, Robert's not gonna waste any time. Okay. The one problem though is if he, over pushes this too much, then White maybe plays B3 or B4 and then just kind of shuts his play down. Um, so he's probably going to have to like push this B pawn at some point. And even if you sacrifice it, it might be reasonable at some point to do that.
Well, still, I still even if he pushes the b pawn,
A3.
yeah, a3 seems
Hmm.
unnecessary. I don't really, but even if he pushes the b pawn, I don't see how he's breaking through because you say he plays b4 eventually, you play c4,
Right.
and now you have the two pawns versus two pawns, whichever one they push, you push the other one, and you keep it close.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that is really interesting. So if we get beef. Yeah, it's still not obvious. So White should just be trying to play for their own attack. And White also is this pawn just potentially hanging here?
Yeah, I mean, then all the light squares on the king side after, amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So if we take this pawn, then White can basically just push up here, and it becomes really, really ugly. So I think yeah, it would make sense to just take that pawn. So King A1, kind of strange, and then A3, yeah, it seems completely unnecessary. So now we've weakened a lot of these light squares here. We've allowed a knight to potentially jump in. It just seems really wrong, and also now B5 is looking even better because a rook can swing over here, either one, and target this weak square. There might even be sacrifices, like ideas if this bishop opens up, maybe almost like a King's Indian kind of thing. So so yeah, okay, just not wasting any time targeting the weak square, and Eddie's kicking him out. So maybe it's not such a big deal if Eddie can kind of blockade all of Black's pieces away. So, okay, takes, right. I don't know. Again, let's see. A lot of the times too, I almost just want to like just let them go to town here and take, but I think yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. So yeah, maybe just punish Robert for um like being a little too fast. So I wonder here if there's a kind of safer way to go about this. Um, hmm. Well, so if this is going to get hit C4, maybe this knight just going back is reasonable. Yeah, maybe just the knight going back. And then, we're not like right away trying to jump in here, but black has ideas of like opening the center. And if they can do that, then that should help him quite a bit. But okay. Okay.
This
Interesting.
is seeming kind of placid compared to
Yeah. I
what I was
don't think that's
expecting.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't think that's really working, right? Like, hmm.
Just seems like they're headed towards an equal position now, or maybe not totally equal, but
Well, I mean, yeah, Eddie's up 2 pawns, right?
okay, yep. Got to count material before I call position
Yeah.
equal.
Yeah, so I mean yeah, I mean you're right though because so like piece wise here, white and black's pieces are both kind of doing something. And so, if you hadn't given up pawns before, it's probably equal, but this would just mean that, white's probably just winning if black's not able to do anything. This is kind of one of my favorite positions to be in is where the opponent has to like, be desperate and find something. And and then all you have to do, a lot of times people will make the mistake of trading down. But really, what I will tell my students is all you have to do when you're in the winning position is just stop the opponent's threats. Don't just trade down to simplify because sometimes, simplifying makes things simpler for the opponent as well. But just stop their threats and then just make them sit in their bad position. Okay. Yep, reasonable. So yeah, it looks like Eddie's kind of in control right now. I don't think, Robert's bishop pair is going to be great. This knight's going to be at least as good, as this guy, I think. Yep. Yeah, this all just seems perfectly fine for white. Uh, yeah, queen to b6. But I suppose we'll have to look at the time situation again. Um, Eddie's already, down to half his time at this point, so and it looks like his time's even lower further up here. So rook c5. Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
asking for b4, right? But
yeah. I don't know. I mean, he might be asking for b4 and might be happy to get b4 though. Um, yeah, as long as it
well,
doesn't win anything, right?
well, hey, but we've got to calculate that b4 bishop f6, b takes rook. Okay, is that what's
Oh yeah,
happening?
yeah. No, taking the. I'm no. I'm assuming he moves the rook, but that's
Yeah,
like his
yeah. Okay,
idea, right?
got it. Yeah, just to
Yeah,
avoid
yeah,
you know.
yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm assuming he's gonna move the rook.
All
So
right.
I'm thinking like as long as he doesn't lose this rook, it's gonna be it's just as I don't know, as white, like this is kind of a scary move to make. So unless you're like winning immediately, maybe like they get some counterplay. So yeah. I thought maybe just a reasonable move. A lot of the times a decent idea is just to say, well, um, okay, so he's threatening to take this pawn. Ideally, it'd be nice to really play like Rook F1 just to be able to activate my piece that's not doing much. But we're not dealing with this pawn, so maybe even just moving the queen back, or yeah, maybe being aggressive is right. But I also feel like this kind of seals the queen away from like being useful. So,
Well, you could
hmm,
think about knight b3 if you don't want to play b4. I mean,
right.
you're not gonna be able to take c6 afterwards, but you kick
Yeah,
in.
I kind of like knight b3 actually. Oops. Okay. So yeah, knight b3 looks
But then
interesting.
where's the knight going? I kind of want to just go back to d4. You know.
Yeah, yeah. That's basically like maybe the queen would even come to d4 and go to c3 and the knight would come back and yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
I guess you're just
really
trying to
unclear.
consolidate. You're just trying to consolidate and stop their threats. I guess that's not the worst idea, but you are kind of
Right.
reducing the activity of the knight to like, okay, do you really need to? Yeah, do we even need to? Okay, I guess I guess they're threatening to take
And
the
he does
pawn.
play it. Hmm.
I also wonder just about playing rook c1. I'm
Yeah, just rook c1 and
just saying like, okay, what's next?
yeah, this does not really seem really healthy. So a lot of times if you have like a weird feeling in chess, like, hey, that piece doesn't belong there, then maybe, it's not a bad idea to say like, come in and stay a while.
Yeah,
Okay.
you hang out there, bro, and
Yeah.
I'll go do some other things.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So knight to b3. Hmm. All right. And
Yeah, when you attack a piece, ask yourself if you're actually pushing it to a better square.
right.
But no, I like attacking it too. I mean,
Yeah. I
it's defending c6, and yeah, he goes to attack c6 right away. So
Yeah, and you might be able to simplify things a little. Like if we get rid of this bishop, I honestly like feel like this is Black's kind of last hope if they're able to make something happen over here because you'll get the diagonal. A lot of the times, there'll also be ideas of, maybe taking this pawn with check or something, using a pin. Rook coming over, stuff like that. So if you can get rid of that bishop, then I feel like most of the game should be kind of smooth sailing. So maybe that's why he just goes back and defends
yeah,
versus playing like, yeah, c5 is pretty bad. So okay. But yeah, here maybe
just play rook
um
f. Well, from that perspective, play rook f1 because okay, you can
yeah,
trade it.
exactly.
I mean, you
Yeah,
want to be
now
able to
rook
play rook.
f1.
You want to, in the worst case scenario, you want to be able to play rook takes f6 in tactics.
Right. But Rook F1 just also the principle of like, okay, what's my least active piece? So all of White's pieces are kind of working except for we have one kind of couch potato piece here. And so yeah, Rook F1 would really just solve that. And I think this Rook is a good one to get rid of also. So Bishop to E4 seems pretty good though.
Yeah.
Still putting pressure. All right. All right,
Well,
he takes,
let's
but
hold
now
on. But he didn't go back a little bit because what happened after bishop takes c4? We got to check at least
oh, so
instead of
so after bishop takes c4.
yeah, we got it. We got
Oh, okay. Yeah, so after bishop takes c4, well, I think that White's able to at least win this and this trade probably simplifies things a little bit too much. So let's see. So I guess we have options. Taking on c6 is one. Um and then maybe even if we take on c6, maybe even b4 will win a piece. That might be enough to win the game potentially. So, we potentially take here and then, we kick here, or we maybe even knight to b7 and, kick this rook away as an idea, if the queen moves. Or probably the simplest is just, oops, maybe we can just make that trade. Oh, yeah, of course.
oh yep. Sorry, queen takes rook.
Now there we go. I was like thinking, yeah, there's always I always got to keep an eye on that queen.
Yeah.
So like if yeah, anytime there's a rook lined up with a major piece, yeah, that just looks good. Okay,
So
so tactics.
yep, you got
That's
to
the
just
answer.
you
Fair
gotta.
enough.
And I mean, it looks loose too, even if you didn't immediately see queen takes rook. So I mean, it just looks wrong, but
Right.
I mean, it's a move you got to look at least.
Yeah, definitely all the captures, all the checks. Always got to check them. Okay, so queen to e6. And so that makes sense, kind of getting out of those tactics. Hmm, really? All right. Seems somewhat risky. Um, yeah, I would think you're just maybe so I guess there's problems with this guy. Um, yeah, hmm, this is tricky. So we can't do that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is not really what white wanted though. Oh, okay. So so yeah, maybe that was a mistake taking on C6 then, right? Because let's see. So after this, then Robert just has this nice skewer.
Yep.
Hmm. So let's see, what should we have done here? So Queen E6 was reasonable, got out of the pin. Um,
Yeah, it definitely doesn't work, but
hmm.
okay, yeah, I was thinking of some nonsense tactics. Never mind.
Well, maybe just something like kind of boring and you know, can we do this? No, there's still
Yeah,
this idea.
I think we were
Hmm.
kind of just seeing, 95 didn't make a ton of sense, and we're seeing the downside of that because I mean
Yeah.
it made sense to avoid repetition, but you just got to find a different idea. You just put your knight back on d4, and just realize like, okay, I'm not going to be able to kick that rook, but let me just play rook f1, or I'll deal with that rook later, because you actually just kind of put your piece on a square
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
going to
this
get targeted
was
by tactics,
really risky.
just to kind of make.
Yeah, back here, yeah, like we were saying, there's nothing really wrong with playing like a rook c1 or maybe even just, back the queen up to one of these squares just to see, what's going on here.
I,
Again, black has to do the work, right?
yeah, and I mean, white. I could see playing knight b3. The rook moves, go knight back to d4, and then of course black, if he's sane, will try to repeat. But you never
Right.
know. Robert could just not repeat there, so you could just try doing that once, and then I think proceed with a different plan, allowing the rook on c5 for a bit, because just
Yeah.
just shifting that knight to a5. Because I mean, even once you shift to a5, you can play rook c5 anyways.
Well,
Now,
this is still an interesting dynamic, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a
we
point.
have the potential to just
Okay.
play c5, right?
But still, it's making that's giving so much more activity to bishop g8. Like we're up two
Yeah,
pawns.
that's true. But I mean, if we can, yeah, I guess if we can like get our rook to play here, maybe, if they play d5, um, yeah, maybe we even push here. Like you said, though, you are giving some activity to this piece, but we're probably gonna end up, maybe we trade this off or something. Um, it's one idea. Yeah, so yeah, definitely not knight a5. Maybe also just like again using this rook, maybe we just defend here and we just again, wait. And this knight just seems so much better on d4. So yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's maybe worried about rook e3 or something, but
Right. All right. So okay, and yeah, he doesn't yeah, this is not even though, the piece might be able to play well in the end game, yeah, Robert's definitely not going for that. He wants to just, come in, maybe get checkmate. So okay, queen to c4. He's got to play king b1. Oh, this is brutal. So just completely preventing Eddie's king from escaping here. Ah, right.
well, I guess
And
threatening.
he's also got queen c
Yeah, he's making the direct threat
c2.
queen c2, and I don't know what's the
Hmm.
total flop there.
This
Maybe
this
some
is
back rank
also
stuff.
bishop f6, right?
Oh, but look, there might be some. Well, the back rank looks weak because bishop covers a2. So I was thinking about takes d1 tactics, but they're not working.
Right.
But yeah, there
Yeah.
might be some back rank stuff.
So pretty much, he's gonna have to, block with the bishop, so he does. But yeah, like you said,
Well, now does
not quite working yet.
well, what about just queen
So
c2,
bishop
king
f6.
h1? Well, what about rook f2? He's got to play king rook b1 probably.
Oh, so wait, you're saying so after queen c2, right?
Yeah,
And king a1
yeah, and
and
rook f2.
rook f2. Yeah, seems pretty strong. Yeah, definitely
And
rook
now
f2
he's got
is
to play
good.
rook b1, right?
Yep.
And now do we have some tactics?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should sort of
Queen
B1.
Queen B1's not doing anything.
Hmm.
Queen B2, does that do anything?
I mean, this bishop just hangs, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just come on.
Sorry.
Allowing Queen C2 is crazy.
Yeah.
You,
So, it'd be nice. Obviously, we'd like to get some kind of beautiful mate or something, but if we just win, that's okay, I guess. So, yeah, funny. Okay. So this, I guess Eddie's just in real bad trouble now. So just, he had a really nice game, just bringing your pieces to some squares where they're kind of
well,
precariously placed in your
what about
opponent's
What
camp.
about Rook C1?
Rook C1. Well, let's see, Rook C1,
Okay. Queen
just
A2.
mate,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like that's the point.
Yep.
So
So
yeah, he's got to play this, and that's what happened. And Robert just snaps the bishop off, and I guess maybe he's just saying I'm winning and I don't need to mate you instantly. Um,
looking like a win for
okay.
the Latvian, but we do got a lot of games to get through, so we probably should keep it rolling.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds good. So let's see, who should we go to next? Maybe Ronan
Yeah, let's just go in
or
order
Borth.
and go from
Sure.
the start quick. We
Yep.
got National Master Thomas Babcock against Ronan, who's been playing well lately.
Right. Okay. Um, all right. So in an exchange, an immediate C4, interesting. All right, so knight C3, E6. Right. Um,
I'm
yeah, and
not
this is just perfectly fine.
I'm not familiar with any opening details
Caro.
here.
Yeah, I'm not extremely familiar with any of the Caro stuff myself, and I'm a D4 player, but um I guess, what I compare it to sometimes is like maybe exchange Slav positions, even though you have this pawn here and so forth. Um, Black can move this light square bishop out, but a lot of the time, White will get like Queen B3 and like the rook going to C1 and lots of pressure. So like this is kind of a really solid way, I think, for Black to play. So castles, rook C1, bishop D3. Okay, so maybe Black's gonna try and play against this isolated pawn. Right. And yeah, so kind of one of the goals for Black would be with the isolated pawn, exchange the minor pieces, and then ideally pile the rook and queen up here, and eventually play this e5 to win the pawn. That's a really long range strategy. And White wants to use the extra space as kind of a staging area for his pieces to be posted so he can attack. So that's kind of the goal here for both sides. Okay, so Black already gets some exchanges and doing a good job controlling the square in front of the weak pawn. It's always the square in front of the pawn you want to control. B6, and that moves makes a lot of sense too because again the bishop's going to be controlling the weak D5 square. Okay, yep, right, and maybe yeah, this knight, this is actually I like this move though because now, at least again using that extra space and kind of staging. At some point though, White's gonna have to bring this bishop back and start trying to get, Black to make some concessions on the king side. Okay, so getting ready to play B5. Queen comes out. Right. Huh. Is this just is this just hanging? So I was wondering, what about just Queen H4? Is he still hang on to this? Is that just falling to knight F5? Perhaps. Okay. So so yeah, I think unfortunately, like for White, I think Black just is doing a really good job. They want to exchange some pieces, exchange a little bit of pieces, and control this square really, really well. So, okay. And I wonder here, wait a minute, is there anything wrong with just snapping this pawn off?
Well,
So I don't know. What do you think about this one, Chris?
yeah, I
Can
mean, it looks a bit risky just because all the pieces are secure. We got to at least look at, and I mean, if you think about the theme of the position, isolated queen pawn, black wants to trade a bunch of pieces and then win the pawn in the end game usually, and white wants to attack, and so
right.
queen h3 did get the queen in attacking position. All the pieces are anchored. So you're not, it's not loose. Where like I mean, it's kind of loose, but knight anchors c4, and yeah, you can see it there. You have to rook d1. Where's that queen going? It can't go to g4, so it probably has to go back to c5.
Yeah, it's not extremely comfortable.
It's not.
Um,
It's. I mean, It's a pawn, but maybe he's gonna play bishop d3.
right.
I don't know. At the same time,
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
mean,
a
sometimes you can say a pawn is a pawn, though, right?
it's yeah. It's also the type of move. I'd be a little scared to take it myself as black for sure, especially with my current level of calculation. But I think if I was a little bit stronger in calculation, like I would not be shocked at all to see some 2250 just snap that, being like, okay, buddy, what you got? Because I don't see anything.
Right. And
But yeah, I like to play my chess. I don't like to give my opponent activity, just straight up. Even if it's I'm winning a pawn, I want to win that pawn later, and
right.
piece activity is king in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes, I guess, if I don't completely see all the way through it and I don't see the way the opponent can punish it, I think, okay, well, I'm going to do this and then maybe they'll teach me a lesson. But it's a little, yeah, and sometimes it's a good lesson. But other times, yeah, you just get away with taking this pawn. But if black has a reasonable position, maybe there's an argument not to do it. But then again, if white is able to like consolidate anyway, and they just get to keep their pawn and they still get like rook d1 and bishop d3, or maybe they do a rook lift, maybe it might have been worth doing because the thing is like, you know, I guess I'm not sure what black's really active plan is. Maybe besides, obviously like we can blockade here. But like white does have annoying pressure in this direction, so it's interesting. But okay, so yep,
Well,
blockade.
I don't think they necessarily need an active plan. There's piece trades are good for black.
Yep,
As long your active plan is make sure you don't get mated, blunt all white's activity.
right. It can get a little uncomfortable now if let's see if bishop d3 happens. Okay, yeah. Um, hmm. And so now, yeah, maybe even, I mean, it looks a little crazy, but maybe even like a g4, g5 idea could come into play.
I mean, that looks
So,
honestly. That looks. Look at that bishop b7 though. Yeah, that is
oh
so risky because
yeah,
those light squares around your king are permanently weakened, and that is
right.
potentially no good. But
Yeah, yeah. Like,
I,
no, you're right.
unless
We
I'm
can
winning
still
on this,
defend it with f3, but
yeah. Also, if you think about it, I believe I analyzed this with Nubera or one of my coach maybe.
right.
But I was asking about that. Okay, G4, G5, when we might do this, and he says there's an open center, so don't even think about it. And
Okay.
so I think that would apply here too. If there was a closed center and we had pawns in the center, then maybe it's a lot more. You can entertain it as an idea, but and not that you can't, but especially
Yeah.
it's not coming with tempo on knight f5. So maybe if you were coming with
Yeah.
tempo on pieces, you can start to think about it. But and maybe I'm totally wrong and it's actually like crushing, but that's just my.
No, it's I think you're right. I like to kind of entertain these thoughts in the back of my head and then I spend probably half my time convincing myself like to, eat my vegetables, do the healthy thing and don't do that crazy stuff.
I've seen you throw that G pawn a few times, so
Oh yeah.
I don't think you always resist your urges.
No, no, no. I'm not saying I do, but like yeah, if I like there's a lot of games where I do and then it's just like okay. And usually those are some of my better games, but yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not necessarily as fun.
It it puts pressure on the opponent too, so it's like it's got practical value even if it's objectively risky.
Right. I don't really like the the taking here because the knight's doing a decent job of preventing the rook lift from coming. And so yeah, I don't know about this. And like now this center is also defended. So taking on C3, I'm not sure, you know, if that's a great idea. Okay, an H6. And yeah, again, this is the type of stuff I really love to see if I'm white here. So, if you play H6, one of the downsides of that is if you have a knight outposted here, you can't really ever play F6 to kick it out because now, there's always squares on G6 that are weak. So so yeah, if you can avoid it, playing moves like H6, you definitely would like to avoid that. Maybe I thought one of White's ideas was going to be, maybe like threaten mate here and get White to make some kind of concession here.
I feel like I'm happy to play f3. I mean, I'm blunting your knight, blunting your bishop. It's already positionally sound. Yes,
You do
maybe.
have that though. And I don't know, yeah, F3, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe, but if we get this pawn, maybe this is also kind of weak here.
Well, we got some
Um,
calculation, at least a little bit. I mean,
yep,
it's looking loose. Yeah, queen takes a2, rook a1. Queen moves somewhere, and we try to play bishop takes a6, but it's already kind of counter to our plan, and c3 is probably lose.
right.
Um,
Yeah, C3 is kind of a weakness. Hmm. Yeah, interesting. So I think yeah, I think that this would have made a lot of sense. I definitely like it a lot better than H6. Okay, H6. Now we're kind of asking for white to like come in and do, this kind of a rook lift and put pressure on us. Okay, so yep, white defends the pawn there. Um, B5. Okay, so it does start to control like this potentially weak square in front of the pawn, but um, I think white probably should care a little bit more about the fact that I think, black's king. The problem is a lot of black's pieces can't really play. Like it's only this knight here that's really defending black's king side, and the rest of black's pieces don't really play a role actively and like, doing anything to stop white's pieces from, creating contact here.
yeah, I feel like
So,
knight e5 is already perfectly placed to attack, so it's like
right.
and I guess he wants to jump knight c5 and play against that bishop. The bishop can just drop back to a8, and now your
Hmm.
knight's not playing in the attack unless he's got a different idea. I'm not thinking about like knight f4 or something like that, but it just seems like, hey, your knight is already
Yes, yeah, it's
perfect.
really good.
It's outposted on a central square, attacking f7,
Right.
attacking g6 for there's potentially like some sort of knight g6 and rook queen takes e6, or knight takes f7, queen takes e6 with rook supporting that.
Right. So I'm not so sure, why moving this back
Yeah,
is
because I'm
helpful.
if we just go back for just one moment, because yeah, I
Sure.
wonder about queen h3 instead of knight e3, because now say he plays the same.
This idea. Oh, if he
Uh,
plays knight d7.
yeah, if he plays knight d7, I'm just trying to look for tactics a little bit.
Oh yeah. So I mean
With
there is captures and maybe getting him to play like a
well,
g6. There's always like the idea of like some kind of a rook sack idea and like, this crisscross, but let's see
well,
what
knight,
actually.
yeah, knight f7, king takes, queen takes e6 mate, so knight takes f7, rook takes, and that's not necessarily too much, but you can maybe,
No,
yeah, that's not gonna result in
that's not
anything.
gonna do it.
All right,
Um,
just wanted to
hmm.
think about it though.
No, it's worth looking at. I think, yeah, I think here we don't necessarily really have to do. Um, yeah, I don't think we have to like necessarily force anything. We could just kind of sometimes, putting the fear um of Rook G3 into them could be
Yeah,
enough. Because now, let's say, knight back to D7.
I mean we gotta watch,
Um,
keep an eye on rook c1, but not a problem
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, knight. So knight back, and yeah, now maybe
I don't.
even
Just why knight back to auto? Because I feel like knight of six is already defender.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
I was
guess he
just
wants to trade
yeah, as an
queens.
idea,
Is
trade
that
queens. Yeah, that's mainly it.
okay?
Um, and so maybe white just doesn't care, and they just go like for some move like queen to g4. Um, but then that might allow black after. Let's see. Well, takes. If black can pull this off, where they can like bring the queen over to defend, maybe they're okay. Um, but this pawn's gonna get weak, and yeah, who
Well,
knows?
we got a couple.
Really be interesting.
Sorry to interrupt you there. We got a
Yep.
couple viewers in the chat. We got Eddie saying, "Man, Bishop D5 was a terrible move." Sorry, Eddie. Um,
Oh,
but you did play a pretty good game. Total two
yeah.
pawns up for most of it, so nice job. And Lifting Chess says tuning into these broadcasts is always a pleasure. Thursday night, love the commentary. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you guys watching. We currently have 4 viewers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. So this is a lot of times if like an attack happens, a lot of times the best defender is the queen. Like, the best attacker is the queen to break up the king. So, yeah, if he can get in and trade this off. So let's see what happens though. Okay, so avoids the queen trade. Wow, this knight is doing a lot of work here. I'm not so sure that this knight's better here than it was when it was just sitting on e5 though. Okay.
Mate in one, it's
Uh,
always a nice threat.
yeah, mate, but okay. But now this knight again maybe is just not so well placed. So yeah, and black has some mating ideas themselves, right? So
Yep.
um
Now it's looking
yeah, I
pretty
don't
nice
know.
for. Now it's looking nice for black, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of, I feel like the last few games are kind of like the games of awkward pieces. So it's like if you have your piece on such a nice like premium square like this, maybe like look for how you can improve your other pieces. Like, yeah, I think your Queen H3 idea is decent because we can slide over maybe rook E3, kind of just yeah, like anything else but this guy. So yeah, now black is looking pretty good and definitely not a move that you want to play when black has a bishop slicing down the board like this. So now maybe even okay, we have to watch out for mate. But maybe if we're able to stop that, bishop e4 could become a really good threat at some point.
Yeah, rook takes right
Okay.
now, but I can't really see
Yeah,
how
rook
he's.
takes right now.
I can't really see how he's going to support. I was trying to think of the same thing, but I don't see how you support bishop b4 further without.
Right. I think like the way to do it would be try and get the queen to f3 maybe.
Well, then queen takes f3.
Yeah, but black kind of wants like the queen trade because of the weak pawns, right? So I thought like maybe, that could be, yeah, that's probably like a reasonable plan for black is to try and get, queen g4 and queen f3. And if we trade, we get the weak pawns. And white's king is not so happy. Um,
Queen
but yeah, like you said, maybe bishop e4 is not happening that way unless, they move the queen out of the way.
Queen g4 makes some sense
And
too,
this is
just
mate
because
too.
you're getting the queen on the light squares when you're attacking on the light squares. So
Right.
you
Yeah,
could.
and maybe even it looks kind of crazy, but maybe even then, we might even play G5 to dislodge this knight that's kind of doing a good job defending like some critical squares, right? So, okay.
Yeah, there's there. See there when we're playing g5, it's got it's hitting a knight with tempo, so you can.
Right.
You don't worry too is quite as much about throwing pawns in front of your king when it's part of a forcing operation compared to just starting a pawn storm.
Right. Yeah, if you should basically, yeah, like a pawn storm without like any end purpose probably should be your last choice as far as plans go. Okay. H5. So both players kind of making some interesting pawn moves. So maybe white saw this idea, so they play at h3, and black's trying to kind of like break them down with h5. I'm not sure. I'm not sure h5 is a great idea though. Um, yeah, if anything, I mean, okay, like if this pawn trade happens here, I'm not sure if that really accomplishes anything. And now, white can bring this rook in, and that could be potentially devastating, right? Let's see. It's pawn. So let's just look. Pretty much have to go there, right? And yeah, now, hmm, okay. So we have, ideas of taking here. Unfortunately, you can't make both those things work because this queen does a good job defending, but
You also,
maybe even like queen e2 or something could be reasonable. We have the idea of just taking here.
well, be careful,
Oh,
queen.
but this rook here.
Yes, with check.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Hmm. So
So yeah,
then in that case, maybe queen d1.
the knight's not.
Same idea.
Yeah, okay, but the rook is still feeling loose. Like your knight's never gonna be able to jump. It's part of tactics unless it comes with check, and the king's not on a check square from the knight. So I feel like rook's.
No,
I feel like rook's. You need to get the rook out of there, but the rook. Hmm.
it's kind of defending. It's kind of doing
Yeah.
a crucial role.
Yep.
So I do wonder though, like, yeah, what do you play for black here? Just out of curiosity. And then we'll probably move on because we've got other games to go through. But
Yeah, for sure.
because this is the idea.
Well, I guess. Can you say? I'm not totally devastated. Play rook e8 and go for counterplay.
ECA. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I think you got to just if he plays knight takes, you just have to maybe ignore it. But he's not threatening mate anymore, so maybe it's getting a little loose though. After he plays knight takes f6, you're losing your defender. But
Right. But yeah, this is right because I think the big thing is the square on C1. So yeah, I don't think this is really working as long as like let's not
yeah,
take
yeah,
here.
let's just take on c3, see what
Yeah.
happens.
And then the problem is this
Yeah, and maybe,
and
but they probably play knight takes f6, queen takes f6. So let's think about that.
right. So yeah, it takes yeah, maybe though, the interesting thing is instead of queen f6, maybe this gets thrown in.
Well, then maybe they have queen g4. I don't know.
Right. But
You,
I don't know. I kind of like, yeah, I think black, like you're saying, now look at all these threats, right?
we still just got to be a little careful still here though, because okay, queen g4, king
Yeah, queen
f8.
g4, just probably king f8, right?
Yeah, or even maybe, yeah, um,
Right. And this
or
bishop's,
or even maybe queen g7, queen takes queen, king takes queen, and you're threatening rook c1. And if he moves the bishop, I think maybe you can play bishop d3. But if he couldn't play bishop d3, bishop f1, maybe you can play rook c1, king h2, rook h1 mate.
oh yeah, that would, yeah, that would be pretty sweet. Wow. Okay. So, hey, let's just see what actually occurred here quick. So, okay, so rook e5 was that played? No, no, no. So h3, h5. Oh, I think I have to like refresh this, right?
Yeah, sometimes you gotta if you
Okay. So rook e5 was played though, and instead though, like just got the rook out of the way, and just abandoned the pawn altogether to go after this. Interesting. Okay. And just kind of opening up the position maybe. Um, yeah, I'm not so sure how solid this is though.
but hey,
As long as black's able to defend, right? Like just giving up a pawn.
yeah, I
Hmm.
mean it's time for calculating, but
Whoa, crazy. Okay, yeah. So like here, I mean, black really, if they, yeah, it is time for calculating. So okay, so one thing in general that I want to avoid is taking with the pawn and having a dead bishop, right? So, maybe bishop takes.
I feel like knight takes is most natural, right? But
But if we play knight takes, the problem is, yeah, I agree it's most natural, but like maybe this happens now.
got it.
So yeah, so maybe bishop takes just to kind of, even though, it'd be nice to continue have this diagonal. Like now after this we have this pass pawn and now we don't have a dead bishop anymore.
Well, hey,
Um
there's back rank, mate.
oh, is there? Let's see, it takes check. Oh yeah. Oh darn. Because yeah, like no matter even if we have a knight and a rook, yeah, it doesn't matter if you have the
Yeah,
triple stack.
we got Alekine's gun plus bishop h7 covering, or bishop, that pesky sniper bishop. Oh, I forgot about that guy covering h7.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Okay, so let's see what actually occurred here. So G5 just immediately, maybe that's been spotted. So, so G5. Wow. Yeah, what a crazy game. Knight
Man,
takes
I can,
E6.
I wouldn't like, I don't like tolerating a bishop like bishop e7 that whole game. I feel like overall the game is like kind of going fairly well for black as far as getting activity and making a game of it. The worst it feels
Right.
like when white just like strangles you, your pieces never get activity, and it's like, oh man, but at least this is like black got a lot of activity for their pieces. Both sides probably, if you feed this into an engine, there's going to be some chances, so you get a real chess game. But
Right.
I don't like giving black a real chess game, so I don't want to have such a good bishop the whole game.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I think though, yeah, white definitely it's really unclear because white might I'm surprised they took this way with the pawn. Um, because so after rook takes, black has to deal with this knight. And maybe the queen can kind of like sneak its way in somehow. Um, that's an idea. So yeah, after this, how do we deal with that? Maybe if we go rook f8, might get hit and the queen can get in. Yeah, I don't see any easy way to deal with just after rook takes, um, but I don't know, maybe white's just arguing this pass pawn is going to be good enough. And okay, I guess that's where we're at the game. So let's go to Daniel and Mitchell. All right, so this just looks like or we just have a winning end game here as long as yeah, as
Yep.
long as for some reason they can't control these squares. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
just
no
a winning end
chance.
game because white's always got this square, right? Like as long as white can, move back and forth. How did we get here though? Okay, Queen's Gambit stuff. And okay, black just kind of takes early on C4. And
So why is that early? Because I thought early would be before they played bishop d3.
yeah, before they oh yeah, like that would be extremely early. But even here, I guess the reason I think it's kind of early is I guess it'd be kind of nice to see um, maybe play like B6 so that we can immediately get this bishop out and so forth. Because now if B6, let's see,
Yeah,
so
but
B6.
he's still pre-moving though. He's in his prep.
Okay, yeah. I mean this is fine, I guess. I guess I'm not used to I don't see this line as much. I think it's just kind of like okay, but maybe it allows white to just play like a queen E2 and get ready to trade this bishop right away. And those positions can be kind of annoying, I think for black, especially if they don't get like C5 in and we're able to get like rook D1. Um, so I guess we'll have to see. So C5. Okay, he
Yeah,
immediately
c5
plays
that makes
C5. That's
sense
good.
because otherwise white's just better. They have
Yeah, if you play
two
like a
pawns.
B6, it's too slow, right?
Well, white has an extra central pawn, so
Yeah, gotta
that's
play
that.
C5.
Two pawns are better than one in the center.
Yep. Yeah, now okay, white has so it's another one of these isolated pawn positions, but as long as white can like use this pawn for staging again, we'll see, how well this goes. Um, okay. Yeah, one interesting idea here could be maybe give up the bishop pair and play a move like b3. And then, if takes white gets control of the center again, could be an idea. But okay, so bishop to d3.
It's interesting. Another IQP. We're seeing
Yeah,
we're seeing how often this position occurs in chess. So 2 rounds tonight. Yeah,
right.
my understanding is the dynamics here are white's attacking. They have the weakness in the endgame, so they kind of want to avoid piece trades and attack. And
Right.
black wants to trade pieces, control d5, and eventually build up a battery of pieces on the d file and push e5 and win the pawn.
Yeah,
So they
exactly.
both have kind of clear plans. Found people usually actually prefer white side. I mean, it makes sense. You got to be like classy Karpov type guy to trade off a bunch of pieces and then win the pawn, and then now you're only up a pawn, so you still need to win the end game. So versus like, hey, if you're on the attacking side, I just got to mate that king and let's get the pieces over there. But you know,
Right.
there's good IQPs, bad IQPs. I'm not going to pretend like I understand which versions are good and bad, but I don't know.
Yeah, so probably one of like a next plan for white could be like rook c1 so they can drop this bishop back and then have the flexibility to always, it's kind of a little bit uncivilized to, threaten mate so early in the game, but it's always an idea. And maybe we get some kind of concession. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'm not sure. Bishop d7. I guess I haven't played this particular Queen's Gambit so much, but it seems just kind of even.
It
Okay,
seems normal to
knight
me. He's just developing.
jumps in.
Got to
Yep,
get that guy out.
right. It takes. Okay.
Okay.
If I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not
Here's
sure about that.
myself.
S-
I usually just play pawn takes and just say fine. You want to do that?
Right.
You know, because yeah, you're switching the nature of the position, but a lot of the times, I don't know. I just found in my blitz games, I analyze them, and it always wants me to play pawn takes. So I'm just like, fine, whatever. I don't get to play against that isolated pawn anymore, but I got a lot more central space now. I'm going to play with the e4 square.
Right. I think earlier a3 also might not have been necessary. So now White would like to play rook c1. But the problem is, now that this pawn's going to fall, after, let's say, rook takes or something. And yeah, yeah, potentially that, or like some variation of this where like this is potentially weak. But okay, interesting. So is this going to lose a piece, I guess is the question, because now the problem is we're not addressing this threat.
Yeah.
White's just creating mate. So if g6, now we hit the queen, and we're also threatening this, but maybe white can have an in-between move to save themselves with bishop takes e7. It might be okay. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
g6,
guess
g6, bishop b7. I guess gh5, just bishop g8, and
yeah.
I mean
Yeah, I don't know if that's really
that's not going to be that looks good for white. I mean, so
yeah,
g6,
so maybe
you
it's
got to take
it's
the bishop
working.
back, I guess.
Hmm.
And you can't play f6, you'll get mated. You can't play bishop takes g5, hoping for queen takes g5 f6, you'll get mated. So
Right. Okay, so instead though, F5's played, which um a little bit surprised about, but given some of the other tactics, like okay, I mean it does block this. It's just a long-term thing, like maybe E6, could be weak, especially after the six change. So yeah, what about So what were we saying after like
Yeah.
g6 and takes and we just capture the bishop back? Because that seems, pretty decent, right?
Yeah, I kind of actually like f5 better than g6. I mean, maybe you're. I know
Hmm.
you got the backward pawn, but maybe you're now about to play queen e8 and
So,
try to trade queens,
oh, okay. Yeah, I guess potentially.
and you're
I
kind
don't
of
think that
active.
black necessarily wants to trade queens. They want to kind of keep the major pieces on to put pressure here. I mean, maybe they could trade queens just because white's putting pressure like this. But oops, if we if we here say, even like queen h6, if we really want to trade queens, we can just float our queen into g7. And I don't know, I guess I'm just not so sure how white's going to make a lot of progress here.
Well, you're hanging a bishop there.
Huh? Oh, yeah, right. Let's see. So after this, I guess that's just kind of the strategy. So it'd be like, let's deal with the bishop. Maybe we play this. We still have the same ideas, and we're still going to attack on d4. So I don't know. Looks interesting, but f5. Okay, queen f3. Hmm. Yep, makes sense. So white's gonna want to take that. Yeah, now this is kind of what I was worried about. If you just play f5, it's one of those moves that like it feels good immediately because we don't have to do the concession of g6, but we might end up paying for it, the rest of the game.
Yeah. And
Okay.
queen takes c5 was the immediate threat there.
Yeah, right. So exactly. So that's why queen h4. Hmm. Yeah, and so now just again like piling up on this guy would make a lot of sense. We've even
So we have
almost got ideas.
yeah. Well, do we have rook takes e6, rook takes queen takes knight, and the rook's pinned at least? Just
Right. It's we have to calculate that, I guess. So rook takes e6. Okay. Right. And
I mean, maybe
well,
bishop c4 is coming too,
yeah,
or
exactly. Bishop
you got a
c4.
lot more ways to increase pressure, and you can't just move the king. Um, Looks winning.
Yeah, because if we're even able to exchange this bishop for the rook, we're gonna just be up a pawn, right? So yeah, I think it should be good enough. See, is there any other option black has after? See, taking any in between move? No. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
white's
should
far
just
from the
be good
queen.
enough. Unless,
I mean,
see, is there?
maybe the fish has a good defense, but
Yeah, this is interesting. So like queen takes and defends the knight. Actually, let's look at the fish. Let's see. So here, um, yeah, the fish likes this, and then yeah, it does agree that queen takes d4, but I guess
wants to
white
self
just
he wants to self pin the bishop.
yeah, this is a very stockfish kind of move. Like this is not something that a human would
Yeah, but
really want to
now
do. It
rook.
feels
Wait,
greedy,
but
right?
like yeah, because rook takes rook, bishop takes rook is check, so you're not hanging your queen, but you're not seeing that.
Yeah,
You're not seeing that instantly unless you're good at tactics.
no.
Um,
So, but yeah, you're right that
but
like
you're also
intuitively you could get to this move though by seeing the pin. But then after this, you really have to calculate this position.
and you also
Hmm,
got to be kind of good at tactics to even find queen takes d4 in your initial
right,
calcs because you're just going to be like, oh, he'll take my rook takes, acquiescence there. You got to find the best moves for your opponent too, which is easier said than done.
right. So, okay, let's see what actually happens. So, let's get back to okay. So instead, after queen h4, okay, so bishop e5 happens. And okay, so yeah, still we have this idea. Rook D1 though, just defending the pawn. And I don't think this is a position where white really has to like go after black that much because I think this is just annoying enough where you can kind of slowly press on them and maybe something will happen. So G3, okay, just asking the queen where he's going. And now again there's some tactics. So yeah, definitely here, I think especially especially now that this rook is like stuck here. And there's ideas like this. Okay. But what happens is he's just gonna pile up. Okay. And now finally sees this and yeah, this is we're gonna get this knight. And so it's good enough. And yeah, this is just totally winning. So okay, that's how that extra pawn and like totally winning endgame happened. Okay. So from here I think white should just have this. Yeah, this is just a totally winning endgame.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
don't
they did
totally hate
win.
that. So that was some good. That was a nice winning technique by Mitchell. I think you do need to find your force wins when you have them, but at the same time, like you can't really criticize someone too much for just building up in a safe way and crushing in anyways.
No, yeah, exactly. Like that was the whole point was like by playing this F5 move, Black kind of gave himself this static weakness, and then like White wasn't in a hurry. So yeah, I think White was slow and methodical and did a good job. So yeah, good job to Mitchell. Hey, let's go and look
All right.
at Torfy and Norm here.
Yeah, I think we're a little behind schedule, so for those last four, let's maybe just do
Like a brief.
just recap more, just like go through the game, and we won't do as much what if.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so
Nothing. Not we can still do a little bit, but
yeah, sure. Okay, so we've got kind of huh. Yeah, I don't think against this kind of like bird-like structure or stone wall, maybe. Not really a good idea to take this pawn. Because white kind of
yeah,
gets everything they want. This file will be open and they've got this nice pawn structure. And so, oh,
I'm not
interesting.
familiar with myself. I go for bishop g4 stuff like reverse Dutch
Right.
against
Okay.
Stonewall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good option. Okay, so this is a really interesting knight h3, maybe gonna control e4, but black plays d5, so yeah, it's gonna be all about
Well,
e4.
so what do you think is the key to playing against a player like Norm who plays Stonewall and light square pawn strategy all the time?
Um, yeah, so maybe I would say, if they're playing like system openings like this, maybe like let's not define the pawn structure so quickly. So maybe we'll just get our pieces out to normal squares. We'll play like bishop b7, we'll castle, and then we'll play moves like kind of little moves like b6, maybe like d6, and we'll like kind of slowly advance and we'll let like white define the pawn structure because by playing this f4 and d4 they're kind of committing and they're kind of making these light square holes. So I would say, yeah, probably just normal development. That's the way to punish most of the kind of unorthodox openings, is just normal development. And then maybe if we can, it'd be great if we could like, um, maybe do like a Nimzo thing and try and like bring the knight to a5 and maybe we can trade this light square bishop.
Nice.
So I think that would be reasonable. But yeah, I don't really like this approach of, let's improve the pawns here. Okay. Yeah, and B5 is a little crazy. Not sure what the point of that
Yeah, I
is.
feel like that
A3 isn't needed either.
e6 looks backwards, but I feel like knight e4 is coming, so it's more you're gonna get the Pillsbury knight there. It's not actually gonna be a real
Yeah,
weakness.
yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's necessary, but it's probably just, about even. Black just has to develop. So okay, B5. And okay, this knight. Yeah, maybe this knight even better than taking here. Maybe it's better to go to like D3 and you can like access these squares.
Hmm.
So that'd be interesting. It's bishop. Should be 3, knight d2. Okay, but whenever black goes here, still gonna get that protected pass pawn if we ever
Yeah,
take.
it
So
it just looks like one of those games where both sides are getting great pieces, which
yeah.
kind of, in my opinion, is a win for black because it doesn't happen every game for him.
Right. I think white actually might play for or might pay for this A3 move though. Um, black has ideas of pushing, so white maybe is going to play rook E1 just to get out of anything here. Um, and then at some point, black might be able to take here and open files. But if they don't have A3, then this is really a big nothing. So let's see, rook E1. Yeah, at some point, black's probably got to do this if they want to like try and win the game. Okay, yeah,
Uh,
especially now.
yeah.
Especially now. We have to watch out, obviously,
Well,
for this, but
also
we
it
really
just
need
all that makes
this.
sense. How else is Bishop A6 ever getting any activity? You got
Yeah,
you
exactly.
got pawns on light in the center, so you've already put your bishop on A6. I mean, I think you have to play B4.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, rook C8. So almost better probably is now just put the rook back on A8 so we're defending our bishop and we're, maybe ideas now of playing B4, yeah. That would be
Well, this
the way to go.
why does it need to be defended?
Oh, because if we play it now, after it
Oh,
takes,
I got it.
then
Yep, Rook.
yeah,
Simple
we're hanging.
tactics.
Right. So okay. Oh no, this is not what you want to be doing as black. So now
Oh,
we've
everything light.
as black we've pretty much gotten rid of any real pawn breaks here, right? So so you can't ever get B5 to break that up. Can't ever get E5. The only thing they can really do is get G5, and I'm not sure it's worth doing because it really weakens black's king. So yeah, I really don't like the A4 move.
Yeah, no, that's also just look at White's pawn structure. All his pawns are on light, and that Bishop A6 is never going to get activity.
No. Okay, let's see one.
But hey, Knight C4 looks decent.
Yeah, that's a nicely placed piece. Um, yeah, here I almost want to bring this bishop back, and maybe knights are going to be more valuable. So maybe we can even like swap this bishop for this knight. Who knows?
I feel like
Um,
yeah, okay, finally 94. I was like,
yeah,
how
it's about
that's
time.
the whole that's your whole positional thing, dude. Like, get on with it.
Yeah. Okay, knight d3. Yeah, now white really has to get e5. Like, what are we? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. They both. You.
They figured it out.
It's like it reminds me of like a symmetrical English or something. Like we're both gonna give each other a huge hole in the center, and
Yeah.
let's just see what happens.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean it's really tough to make progress for anybody, I think, at this point. Um, you'd like to get rid of this light square bishop and take a knight, but then, you give black the, extra or the protected passer. Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe the knight can come in here, but you know, at that point, is that really that good either? So it just seems both sides are kind of stuck. See, unless
Yeah.
there's
Tactics.
tactics though. Okay. So this A3 kind of, yeah, I didn't like this A3 earlier. It's just kind of comes back and bites you. Yeah, moves like this, if the pawns aren't moved, then the bishop obviously can't take, and um just one less liability to have. Like the more you move your pawns, the more stuff like this happens.
So
So
I'm still not totally.
hmm.
I'm not totally seeing the reputation to be A3.
Oh, so after B takes A3, let's see, yeah, because now is this gonna be good enough? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe just yeah, I was just looking at takes immediately. Yeah, is this really good enough? I usually think that the piece is better than three pawns, even if they get three pawns. Whoa. Okay, so is this
Is this the game? Or?
what? Yeah, this is the game, right? Um, let's see. Go back here. Yeah, this happens. Yeah, why is that played? Oh, so if queen d2, now knight to b1, and you've got issues, right? So the problem is like, where else does this queen go?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess that's it.
Okay, so he's got to play rook takes.
Yeah, so that's why rook takes. Okay.
So
And
what's the material now?
okay,
White's got
so
White's got two pieces for a rook.
let's
So
see.
this should be winning for white.
Yeah. Yeah, white's got two pieces for a rook, but also black has a couple of pawns.
And I guess you always got to ask how good is the rook, and the rooks are
This
they're
rook is not good. Yeah.
but rook
But
c8's okay.
but
But yeah, white's this has got to be winning for white.
well, this is an interesting point. So right now, I always want to look at, things that are attacked. I'd call these contact points, and then I want to look at kind of defensive and offensive connections. So I would call this a defensive connection because it's something that could be captured, and we also have a connection here, right? So these pieces are kind of intermingled. And so, one idea could be like to win this bishop. So if let's see, white plays, okay, plays queen to a1 to stop it, but like let's just insert some, random move. Obviously, this is bad. But h3, black at least does have ideas of like let's take the knight, and then maybe play a move like b4, and all of a sudden now, this piece is hanging, and if the knight moves, like we win this bishop, right?
Well, hold on. I feel like rook takes is way more natural. You're threatening bishop takes d5 a little bit
Oh, rook take, wait, what? Rook takes knight?
instead of d takes e5.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so still,
And now you can at
still
least
same
think
thing, right?
about bishop d5. I mean, it's probably failing, but
Yeah, bishop d5. Okay, but rook takes knight,
yeah, probably not working.
and
And
everybody can sacrifice their queen, right? Like,
yeah, you're also you're threatening rook takes g3 check, so you can't even really. Maybe you can play queen e1, but so go back to what
yeah.
instead where you played rook takes d3. Maybe try queen e1 just in case. So
Okay,
bishop
so
takes d5, queen takes knight, and queen e1.
queen e1.
But
Okay.
yeah, there's no way this is working. But
No, this shouldn't work, especially after a move like this, right? Just defending that.
yeah,
Yeah, that should. Let's see. Well, takes. Oh, maybe no. There might be a double check here, right?
double
That's
check,
really interesting.
double checkmate. But also,
Unless, okay,
it's also kind of funny because it's contrived that we even have to play. We have to worry about rook g3 check because we played an h3 nonsense move. We could play king h1 or
yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. I guess I'm kind of reaching here just to find an idea for black. So yeah, this is tough. But white just defends the bishop. Um, Kind of feels like a lot safer to just play. Yeah, can just queen d2. That way you're not like entombing your queen. Maybe just a little easier. Okay. And would have also prevented that too. So, all right. And finally, maybe black's happy that that bishop finally left the board. Okay, so some of these tactics have come into play here, but let's see this anyway. I think worst case scenario, maybe black can just step their king over and see they still have this to deal with though. So maybe the rook comes back, defends the square. Oh, but they have to check as well. Oh, that seems even simpler. Yeah, so check. Yeah, this is just not working. So like black probably on their way to, winning this game. Huh. So so let's see what happened. So yeah, white was in control. I think this queen A1 move wasn't great, and then black, all of a sudden this bishop came to life. I guess that it was just like waiting for an opportunity. But if we
Hmm.
play this, here, this isn't really anything, right? I don't think there's nothing great.
I feel like
Okay.
White's position already looked loose though, because look, that rook that rook that you didn't like is actually just staring at two pieces, so
Right.
that aren't anchored. I mean, so it's clearly involved in tactics.
Yeah, we were talking about this too, like these connections, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, everything's working for black. I mean, all their pieces are working. The pieces were working for white too, but
Right. I think yeah, anytime it's really tricky like that too, you really just don't want your queen in the edge of the like in the corner of the board, kind of sad like this. Okay. So here we are, I guess, and current position. I don't know. I like this. It's amazing this coordination though. Like I thought, okay, white should just be losing right away, but like these pieces are actually kind of working together. So that's kind of nice, like impressive. But okay,
T5
so
makes a lot of
now,
sense.
yeah. So now though,
Uh,
I think there's probably just going to be a mate here because you can just sack the rook almost.
oh
Oh
no, you
no,
can't. The
it's
queen.
a queen.
That'd be an oops.
Nope, no. But you can play like rook h3 and it'll be
Yeah,
should be just as good
or
about
rook g2,
rook g2. Yeah, rook g2 is good.
and then that
Or
prevents
this too.
that prevents queen. Yeah,
Yeah, that too.
all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, here though, maybe white can open up the diagonal still, so they take,
Yeah, okay, queen f2. I like
but
it.
there's no
Yeah,
defending
you're
this.
threatening two mates. That's a
Yeah,
good. I think that's a good way. Obviously, this is totally overwhelming, but I feel like a lot of times you see a heavy piece double battery drop in like that. Like you'll set.
right.
My favorite way is you'll sack a bunch of stuff on g6 to clear the pawn cover, and then they'll play king h8, and you play rook f7, right? And you're threatening two mates. You're threatening mate on g7 and mate on h7, and that's often very difficult to defend. So
Right, exactly. Um, so yeah, so black ends up winning that game. Maybe we'll just kind of look quick. They had this other game too, so Nate lost the one to Connor, but
yeah, we
um,
got to look at the end of that one too. We cut it off
yeah, we
early.
should go back to that. You're right. So let's see. See where were we here? We got to this kind of okay, yeah, the knight coming in that was yeah really interesting. So and then this whole knight dance, winning the pawn, sack the rook, very Connor like I guess.
Yeah, well,
Just finding really nice tactics.
looks like he's winning his must-win game. So
Yep.
Connor guaranteed himself at least shared first.
Okay, so we kind of stopped here, and I guess they just so Nate just resigned here, right?
So
Because
he's
there's no more moves.
this must be just overwhelming, and he's playing two boards, so
Okay.
he wants
And it made
to
sense
concentrate on
because
his second board.
yeah, and when we were talking about it too, White really doesn't have any active plans. They're just down a pawn, and it's kind of a sad end game. So I don't really blame Nate for resigning that. I think that's fair. So let's see how.
I I think that is one big downside of playing the two games though, is he kind of does have that incentive versus you can't ever put up max resistance, which Nate, if you're worried about your other board, which
Yeah.
Nate's definitely capable of putting up max resistance. So
Oh yeah.
it's hard to do that on two boards.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so doesn't play the regular Queen's Gambit, but just E3, just really solid. Queen C2, interesting takes on C5. All right, so he's just kind of looking to like open lines and let's have some tactics here against Vince Wisniewski. So yeah, Nate is significantly higher rated here, so that maybe this approach makes sense. So on his second game, yeah, you can't lose both games if you're playing two games, right?
Well, and
So
Vincent made some slow moves here too, so he's not even ahead in development.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, this kind of move, like if you move a rook and you don't have an active like, pushing this pawn doesn't really do much for this rook. I feel like that's not helping him. And maybe like White's going to be able to get rook d1 and get the open file. Yeah, he immediately does it. Um, okay, and
I guess
bishop
that
e6. Okay, well. That doesn't seem to make sense because then maybe bishop b4 and you hit this rook and then you might be able to open up this file. So let's see, or bishop e2 just he just moves away.
I don't think he. The problem is you can see why he's not. Yeah, my your first instinct when that rook comes is I got to get my queen out of the way, but that bishop it can only go to c1, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, this isn't very good yet.
But
I was thinking,
back of mind though, you got to worry about it moving.
yeah, I was thinking of something like this where like, let's say like maybe a bishop d7 or something. And then yeah, we need to free up some space, but one idea could be here, maybe maybe we even move this knight. So let's say it takes, um, yeah, maybe even just queen takes or something. And yeah, we have to start thinking about moves like this that are kind of uncomfortable. But yeah, White's still not castled, and they probably should take care of stuff like that first. So okay, should be two, just kicks the knight back.
Now
Okay,
oh finally, I was like perfect
yeah,
chance to
finally,
castle.
yep.
I was gonna be like if he goes on another plan before castling.
Yeah, here I think okay, like rook c1, just let's just see where they go. But okay, bishop to b4. Yeah, and this is the question. Like, I'm not sure if it's a good idea to trade this guy off. So that's kind of why I'm not so sure about this move. Maybe just like rook c1 and ask Black the question of, your queen is kind of bad here. Okay, so he does trade. And okay, makes sense. So he trade off a light square bishop. So he's putting his pawns to control these light squares that he no longer is able to do it with his bishop. So yeah, that makes sense. And now, black might be trying to get two pieces for a rook. So that makes sense as well. And black is actually getting some annoying pressure here. And maybe this bishop can even come in. So yeah, I feel like it was a little botched. Like I don't think White had to trade this bishop off, but okay. Interesting. And so is there takes? Yeah, it's probably not. Well,
I mean,
yeah, looks like
it's,
takes and the queen can come in.
well,
So I
also
think
you're threatening to take the knight and fork the rooks.
yeah, I think it's worth it. Okay. So he just goes
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way.
that's just straightforward.
Now this is hit, so this is just a
Yeah,
trade, I guess.
yeah.
So now he take yeah, that's kind of telling. So I think he should have just like taken here immediately because how do
Mm,
you deal with how do you deal with this and this?
yes.
Yeah, it looks it's pretty tough. Maybe you just have to play like knight back to c3.
Mm,
Hmm.
true.
But then okay,
Well, it was
so
knight takes.
takes, but this might be a big trade, but again, I think, black won material, so they're probably okay with this kind of thing, right? So,
There's got to be a force win here though. But besides rook takes a3, maybe.
okay, besides rook takes a3.
I mean, maybe that is a force win too. But
Yeah, it seems really good.
there's got to be. Yeah, let's also look at
Checks.
checks captures threats here.
Yep. So even if they're bad, it's good to highlight all this stuff. Hmm. Okay, so we even got this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can see he probably didn't like rook takes a3 because he saw knight c3.
Right. Hmm. Um. Yeah, but then after knight c3, I think that is still probably winning. Yeah, it'd be nice to, let's see if we can find some, like you said, I think there should be a winning line here, but it's not immediately obvious. Oh, well, wait a second. This rook is tied down to this bishop, right? So what if we play this? Oh, this hangs then. But that's an idea though that we could try and, so maybe we can pressure this bishop at the same time as threatening that idea, right?
Yeah, maybe you can just play
So
rook. Maybe you can play rook cd8.
CD8. Oh yeah, or just I was thinking maybe yeah, queen to D7, one of those moves, yeah, rook CD8 and like
I
yeah,
think that's you can trade rooks twice, so it's a little safer. I don't know.
right. I was worried about some kind of freeing move if you play the bishop move and he like swings the rook over, you know? So that's why I was thinking like queen D7 here. Just so that, when this is played, there's no like rook C1 kind of move here. Um, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell like which one
I
of
mean,
these is better.
queen b5 could be a threat to a threatening rook d2 at least.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, maybe
Doesn't
we'll
look amazing though.
yeah, maybe we'll consult Stockfish here. I'm curious about it. No, I think you're right. Like it says rook to D8 and now, the best move for Stockfish is giving up a bishop, so that's or giving up the knight, to bishop takes. So
Okay, and then what about
interesting.
what does Stockfish save on rook takes a3?
So rook takes a3. Oh,
Just so we see
yeah,
what was
rook
up.
takes a3. Oh, I guess no, I guess that's fine for black because after wow, this is a really weird move, knight to c1. So I guess this rook gets kind of trapped out. So there's no like obvious way for this rook to get out now, right?
Yeah, I guess you're just saying you want a pawn, great. Where's the rest of your tactics?
And this is still a problem, right? So I guess yeah, this is just again like a very, I don't know, it's almost like a Karpov kind of move. Like okay, now
Wait,
like good
why
job.
is e2 still a problem?
Why is what?
Why is e2 still a problem?
So E2,
Yeah.
it's not a problem yet, but I'm saying like maybe black could at least try to like pressure E2, but hmm. So yeah, so this is just bad. This rook just runs out of squares, I guess, but not really obvious at all. So yeah, so that's interesting. What about queen? So queen D7. Queen D7 is also -3. So both queen D7 and rook D7, rook D8 are good, but interesting. So that doesn't happen, but somehow Nate ends up. Let's see. So now he does take the pawn anyway, and okay. So now takes and um is this okay? This is just going to be down in a bad end game, right? Yeah, this is just really bad news. Okay, so getting into defensive mode, and I feel like this pawn just hangs, right? So could oh, I guess there's back rank mate ideas. So Nate's just being thorough, just play, G6. You have a square for your king before you execute with
Makes,
these tactics.
makes sense to me.
Yep. Okay. And
Just play
now I
bishop.
was I was thinking of like A5 as an idea,
Well,
just to get this bishop
why
in.
can't you just play bishop b4?
Bishop B4. So now if you play
I
bishop
guess
B4,
yeah, you're gonna get back ranked.
you're gonna get mated,
No, not quite.
right?
Are you? Oh yes, maybe n.
You're just gonna get mated, yeah.
Yeah, because they'll play rook, bishop f8, and then they'll play bishop h6.
Oh yeah, actually, this is better because the knight can come back. Um, Funny thing is though, this should be at least a draw though, because if you try and go this way, you get mated like that, right? So this is definitely this either way, not what white wants.
Suboptimal.
Yeah, not what white wants. So okay, so black or sorry, not what black wants. Yeah, so okay. But he finds a way to make it work. Yeah, this is a really nice defensive piece. Yeah, there's just nothing here. Okay. Just losing another piece, it's over. So yeah, so after this, I mean, he just kind of mops it up. And yeah, there's just gonna be mate here. All right, well, yeah, good game by Nate. And maybe just very quickly, should we just go through the last two really fast?
Yeah, let's go through the last few and then let's plug our sponsors quick and then we'll be done.
Yeah, sounds good. So okay, so
Yeah,
Queen's Gambit
this
accepted.
this one was miniature, just with kind of shock blunder. So
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so yeah, there's some interesting lines where like sometimes beginners will fall for this one where you could play E3 and if B5, A4, you can't play A6 because after it takes the rook hangs. So sometimes people will play C6 and you get this position where all of a sudden
oh,
like the best thing black can do is like give up a knight, just lose. And so it's funny that it's called the Queen's Gambit because white can always get this pawn back. And so instead of this, let's say they play a more normal move like mate E5, then there's even kind of a funny line here where white doesn't even take the pawn because black can't take this one because the bishop F7, and it usually ends up in some kind of IQ P position. And this is kind of like it's just interesting. But okay. But just equal. So let's see how white handles it. And they just go for like an open Catalan. Interesting. So gotta deal with this. Huh. Okay, so can we get away with no, I feel like this diagonal is just so brutal, just too weak. So if we ever try and take this as black, then all these pawns are just so awful. And this bishop is just a monster, so I want to have that. Um, okay. Huh.
yeah,
Interesting. So now,
I've actually got a. I'm not saying
hmm?
objectively good, but I've got a kind of safety rule for myself as far as it
Yeah,
comes to Queen's Gambit accepted. So I would never really, at least in my current mindset, consider playing Queen's Gambit accepted because what I like to do is I only like to play d takes c4 if it's very good for black. So I don't want to get into any positions where it's like equal or slightly better for white, and I've played d takes c4 because I'm falling behind in development. If white does something weird, I'm happy to take the pawn. If they play like knight c3, queen c2, and are playing a bunch of slow moves, sure.
right.
But to do it on move four, it's like you don't know what white's, or to do it on move whatever three, you don't know what how prepared white's going to be, and then they might get way ahead in development and just blow you off the board because you took a pawn away from the center. When you make a pawn move, you're spending a move you could be spending on development, and so you're giving away some center, giving away some development, and that can definitely backfire. But that said, Queen's Gambit accepted is top tier opening. It's just I feel like it's risky.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I think just yeah, play principled chess and play in the center. At least definitely for like, getting up to like 1800. Nothing wrong with just, playing classically in the middle of the board and just getting experience there. But yeah, I mean, if you know your lines here, it can be really annoying for white. But at the same time, I feel like it'll just fizzle out to a draw if white doesn't like make any big mistakes. but this bishop being opened is just brutal here. Yeah, and I don't know. One of the most annoying things is the Queen's Gambit decline player is facing the Catalan when you have like this monster bishop and pressure here. And so I almost instinctively, yeah, I never want to take on c4 unless I know I'm getting to keep that pawn forever. So okay, now we've got again some defensive connections that looks like this queen. Let's see, we're gonna only have the queen defending this bishop if the knight's captured. And even if they take here, we're gonna at least have bishop takes c6 check, and that should just be winning. So yeah, so okay, and white finds it, and now bishop c6. Yeah, yeah, this is just totally losing. Okay,
Yeah,
and yeah, bishop queen b7 happens, and now that was pretty nice by white. But yeah,
yeah. I
honestly,
think
I think it's tough.
yeah. If we look through, let's not go through all of them right now, but I've been commenting on the games, and I know at least rounds 1 and 2, Thomas was top tier tactics. So,
Right.
and he's actually like unrated or he was low rated, but I think he's going to be up in Premier before too long at all because he seems like he's really sharp tactically. Definitely even keeping up with Premier players' tactics, or so I would not be shocked
No,
to see him up
yeah,
in that section soon.
yeah, this was just really nice, and I think black against these fianchetto structures, in principle, I think black should just try and keep this pawn on d5 and make white bite into the granite. Like let's not open this up because it's just asking for something really bad to happen. So let's look at the last. It's like Scott versus Steven here.
English.
Okay,
I want to learn.
okay,
I want to learn this, but I haven't quite gotten around
e6, right?
to learning e5 yet. But I know e5 is the most critical response to c4. So nice that Scott plays that.
Yeah, interesting. And I think like you can play this like as white with e4 and b3 against a lot of stuff as well. So yeah, not
Yeah,
not really well versed in the theory here. This is interesting though. So now going for another fianchetto.
yeah. I'm not well
Okay, and
versed.
just
Right now I just go c4 knight f6, try to transpose to my d4 prep the best I can.
okay. Yeah, fair enough. Run away e4 no. So bishop b7. This is very dangerous. So like now black's risking just getting run over, right? Like maybe d5. And d5, e4, white can't be worse in that situation, right?
Yeah, I mean that
Um,
looks amazing for white.
yeah, I don't think
Look,
we want to like
you
give.
you're gaining tons of space. You're totally killing his.
Well, and even this pawn is going to hang too. So after d5, like you can't even defend this pawn too. So it's horrible.
It's nightmare.
Yeah. So yeah, in general, a lot of the times, yeah, when the opponent advances a pawn to either of these two squares, a lot of times we can't let them just advance further. So here probably just had to take. And he probably wasn't liking, maybe he didn't like this position so much of like, has to take and bring White's queen into an active square, but I don't think that's terrible. Yeah, so like say
Yeah, no.
takes bishop c5. I guess, this could be kind of unpleasant
Well, if you're
because
gonna play
now
bishop,
like
yeah, you got to do that. No, so
yeah,
I mean,
you run into
did
this
you?
though.
Yeah, did you have to play bishop c5 though? I mean, you could play bishop e7.
Yeah, it's I guess yeah, I was just thinking that's a little more active, but yeah, you're right. You could play bishop e7 and maybe again, like this looks kind of sad though. Now maybe this idea. Hmm.
Yeah, so maybe you wanted to play. Yeah, it's already looking.
Really kind of ugly, right?
Yeah, but maybe you want to play bishop. Just play bishop b7 right away,
Bishop e7 or
or
bishop
bishop.
b7.
Yeah, but then probably just. I mean,
Uh,
you could try knight d5 again, or I can think about the checks.
yeah. So if we take here, then we automatically have like a fork between the queen and rook if we just get rid of this knight, right? So so this is even just ugly. So after takes, we have this move automatically, right? and we can at least destroy black's pawn structure if they don't want to lose a rook, because after bishop e7, you can't take back without this, right? And so you're gonna have to take like this. This is really ugly. And now just like
I
castles and
wonder.
play a normal game.
There's
And
probably an
this,
easy refutation of this, but what about c5 instead of bishop e7? Or think
uh,
about some. Yeah,
so
yeah.
go
After
c5,
no, no, just let the bishop trade because you're trying. I mean, yeah, I know it's ugly, but
right?
if you did trade it off, yeah, no, it's probably always going to be tactics against the rook. But
Yeah. And
um,
and in general too, if like if white can achieve black playing c5, and just permanently having that weakness, like we saw the other game with the backwards pawn, how slow and methodical, they were able to win this. Like now, just queen e3, um, something like this, and putting some pressure, or actually I think keep the pieces on, just trade and play rook to d1. Really unpleasant. But yeah, you're right. Maybe that's better. But okay, so in principle, I think that White's doing very well, but they castle, so they don't take advantage of d5. Okay, and now, huh? Okay. Well, I mean, maybe Black looks kind of brilliant now. Like, okay, I got rid of the bishops, and maybe
yeah,
it's gonna work out,
he's
but
got that backwards pawn you mentioned, but I feel like he can put
it's not as bad
he
as
can solve it
yeah,
with d5 eventually, hopefully.
yeah, yeah. Without that light square bishop, it's not nearly as nice for White.
Makes
D6,
sense. Kick the centralized knight.
right? And now we
Did
just
you?
have to
Yeah, I guess you
survive.
had to.
So this is an extremely dangerous position now for Black. I mean, did he really have to? I don't think he had to do it. Let's see.
Well, he's worried
So,
about just dropping the pawn on d4. I feel like
well,
you can
just
calculate.
drop this knight back though, maybe.
I mean, just because that looks dangerous, who cares? Let's just calculate because maybe he did too. Knight f3, g ef, bishop e7, rook e1. What's
Sure.
what's the threat? It looks precarious, but he might be recovering fast
Yeah,
enough.
maybe he
He's
can
got rook
play a rook
g7,
to.
and he's gonna get castle.
But I thought best case scenario, they're getting a horrible pawn structure. So like let's say here rookie one, right? So or wait a minute, so you're saying bishop e7 right now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and you
So
definitely
bishop
bishop e7 now because you're calculating this all the way back before you played knight takes f3. But
right. So
so
here's the problem though. So after this, now we take on f6. So how are you gonna respond to that one?
got it. Just bishop takes. That's the problem.
Right. And so now rookie one.
And now, I mean, I want to play bishop e7 to start, but otherwise, if it's a problem, I'll play king f8.
And if you play king f8, I think that's enough compensation for white. I think white's almost winning now. Can play like queen d2 and rook to d1, and this rook's not playing.
Yeah, I got to make sure you can't get g6, king g7 in though. It's just superficial.
Yeah, let's say that we get the knight in here.
I guess knight bishop e7.
Yeah, we just pile on. So it just
Yeah, now
seems
well, let's just keep going. King g7, and because if he takes, there's still I don't know. I guess we don't have a rook on the e file yet to potentially
no,
kill
and
taking.
white's just already perfectly set up. So I don't. There's no way that um
Yeah,
this is great. Yeah. So
makes sense.
interesting. Yeah, so this is a very dangerous position. I think taking here. Um, so what ended up happening was he played rookie one first. I think bishop takes would have been much better because then, maybe you have to play G takes or you have to, play a move like King F8 but we saw, neither of those positions are great. Um, and this knight is just an absolute monster here. So I think they kind of just missed a chance there. And I don't like this either because now again could just ruin the pawn structure, right? So like, what was wrong with castles? I guess. No, that looks pretty good. So okay. So yeah, so he finally does wreck the pawn structure. This is like a perfect position for the knight. Like you can imagine the knight going to any of these squares here. Wow. Uh yeah. And so now
I mean,
we could just win the pawn. Queen c2, queen d3.
yeah, he's worried about knight of. I mean, you can also just think about knight of 6 check if that helps at all.
Right. Um
But then you just knight hanging and you don't have a follow up.
I
But
actually really
knight f6, queen h6 mate is almost if. I mean, obviously you can't play queen h6, but
I actually really like queen a4. So you can't even block because this is just mean, right? Um and so you have to play f8. And then after that, we hit this rook that's defending here, right? And how do you really defend that?
maybe rook d7.
Yeah, so rook d7. So rook d7. Uh, oh man, it feels
Go back for a second. It's because I
so
like, dude,
close.
the dark squares are way weaker than queen a4. Like what you know why hit those queenside pieces? Let's get at that king. So instead of queen a4, play queen d2.
Queen d2. Oh yeah, so here, oh, queen d2, and we have the idea of check
What
and mate, right?
exactly? Mate two
Oh
is
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
that's my favorite
Okay.
threat.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, maybe then they try and castle, but I don't think that's working. So after takes, white throws this in, that's gonna be winning, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so oh nice. Well, okay, so yeah, this is just this kind of position, it shouldn't be shocked that white's just winning here. So okay. And yeah, he does play queen d2, gets in. Yeah, and this is
Ooh,
oh okay.
knight f6. Oh, I guess
Yeah,
yeah.
knight
Just
f6 is the
either
same
way.
thing.
Yep. It
Kind
just
of
looks it
more
looks so
mean to make
it
him.
looks so pretty.
Yeah, yeah, make him like do the death walk, like march his king or march his queen to the slaughter. But yeah, and this way
No,
also,
yeah, he
the
wins the.
queen prevents the rook, right? Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is just winning too,
How is I'm
because
not see you can't fully pick up a rook here,
you
can
don't
you?
win the rook, but you go here and then you win everything else,
Yeah.
and
And
that's I think that's what
it's
happened,
queen for
right?
rook, and he's got no counterplay.
Oh, he takes here, but
It doesn't matter.
yeah, the queen is just so easy to use. And unless the rooks are together, the queen's almost always going to be better where it can just eat the pawns. So that was the end of that one. Well, cool.
Perfect.
This is my first time doing this, so like definitely little bit nervous and everything, but thanks
No,
for
you did.
having me on, Chris, and want to
Yeah,
repeat this.
thank you so much. And yeah, we do actually want to do a quick word from our sponsors. So we actually have a new sponsor this week. So Dane, thanks for coming on the channel. And Dane is actually a local chess coach, very successful in by that. Brought up a lot of players from low ratings to very high ratings. So, anyways, let him give a pitch for his coaching.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of people that I brought from sub 1,000 up to 1,800 within 2 years. My email and name, just Dane Zagar, is on the Castle website. So if anybody does know anybody that is interested in lessons, please just feel free to get my email or phone number off of the Chess Castle website, and would love to talk to you about chess improvement in general. Um, yeah, and teach all ranges of ages. I've taught people as young as 8 and as old as like 65. I think it was my actually taught Ed too. He's up there. People as old as like 65. So definitely not too late to start, getting into chess. Okay. I think we have another sponsor, right?
Yep, and we do have another sponsor, our usual sponsor, chessgoals.com. So this is simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. Learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines. And so this is owned by local national master Matt Jensen, and who commentates on the channel now and then. And yeah, I actually own the Catalan course, and you get access to a private Discord where Matt answers all your questions. You get PGNs of all his opening recommendations. There's also videos. There's a ton of texts. So it's great for learning kind of club level repertoires. And yeah, I can definitely recommend it. So if you want to check out the opening courses there, go to chessgoals.com and make sure you use coupon code CASTLE to save 30%. And with that, we're going to call it on today's broadcast. Congrats to Connor on winning the tournament, I believe. I'm not sure if he co-won it, but I know he at least
I don't
was
think
one winner.
anybody could catch him. So I think
Okay.
it was Nate with three and Connor with 2.5, and everybody else had two or less. So I think he got clear first with 3.5 out of four.
All right. Well, congrats to Connor doing the must win with Black Thing and closing out the tournament. So, all right, and we will see you guys next week. I believe New Bear should be back next month. And thanks